I will eat your ass.
I'm not happy.
I don't need Elizabeth Warren or the government giving away my money.
Calling Mike Bloomberg an oligarch has implications in this country that I think are unfair and unreasonable.
I care. That's it.
Makes you think of some rich person who got their money off of oil in Russia, who's taking advantage of a broken and dysfunctional system.
Bernie Sanders saying, the country's corrupt, our system's corrupt. Be careful about that language, Bernie. You know, be careful.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Mike Pence.
Round the nation. Hey, everybody. It's Monday. Welcome to a new week and a new show. We're gonna have fun today. We got MAGA chuds. We got MAGA chuds turning on MAGA. Fun. Turning on Trump specifically, and Mo Brooks. That's always fun. We got, of course, brand new Pillow Talk segment as usual. We got Biden versus the media on Afghanistan. So that's an interesting story. I actually really like that story. We'll talk about that. And then for fun, we have companies, one specific company in particular, actually doing the right thing. Fascinating. Fascinating. So you love it. I love it. We're going to have fun here. But hopefully everybody had a fantastic weekend. Is ready to start a brand new week with, of course, your mix of disaster stories and fun stories. And, of course, conservatives being ridiculous. All that good stuff. Let's get into it. Before I do, I want to thank Tabsiv for resubbing with Prime over here on Twitch. Thank you for subbing for 4 months. Resubscribe with Prime. Bezos Bucks, gotta love them. TYT, again, thank you for the raid of 225. Welcome to the show, Raiders. We're gonna have a good one, as I pointed out. Let's weekend. What's that? What's that? I hear you. I hear you. Trust me. Trust me. I know what it's like to be a weekend warrior and how much it sucks. But welcome to the show anyway. Let's see. Whoa, Jeff has Twitch. I know, right? I'm hip with the kids, with the younger folks. You know, I think it's rad. Do we still use the word rad here? Do we still? What about groovy? Like, no, I'm not quite that old, but I'm trying to figure out the right words. I think it's what is it? It's poggies. That's what it is. See, I'm cool. Hello, fellow kids. Oh, Jeff needs to play Fortnite 24/7. Good lord. Good lord. Tried Fortnite, wasn't a fan. More of a PUBG, guy myself, but I guess, if you play it with friends, it's more fun. Hoggies. I still use Radical. True. All right. Anyway, enough playing around. We got fun stories. Let's go to Trump. Former President Donald Trump reportedly got booed by his legion of fans after recommending that they get vaccinated against COVID-19. You know, the thing that is killing unvaccinated, mainly Republicans, or just mainly unvaccinated people, which happen to be Republicans for the most part. So, nonetheless, the mere mention of getting a vaccine elicits this response. Take a look.
I recommend take the vaccines. I did it. It's good. Take the vaccines. But no, that's okay. That's all right. You got your freedoms. But I happen to take the vaccine. If it doesn't work, you'll be the first to know, okay? I'll call up Alabama. I'll say, hey, you know what? But it is working. But you do have your freedoms. You have to maintain that. You have to maintain that. And you got to get your kids back to school.
So look at the turnaround on that immediately. I mean, you got your freedoms, such great freedoms, many freedoms. You get the best freedoms. But take the vaccine. I did it, but freedoms. All right, sure. But even that, you know, focus on like, oh, well, you got the freedoms. I mean, you can take it if you want, whatever. That was more than enough to get the MAGA chuds against you, on a thing that actually could potentially save your life. It's almost like, and it's funny again about the backpedal here. It's that realization that clicks in his tiny little brain. Well, it isn't the consequences of my own actions. Again, look at Donald Trump dealing with the monster that he helped create. Again, okay, he didn't actually create the monster, but what he did famously is co-opt it to its own ends, right? And big surprise, on this issue, the monster turned on him. If only anybody could have seen this one coming. I mean, with the entire time that he was downplaying the virus itself, the fake virus, fake news, not real, kind of like a flu, a little bit of a cold, it's not that bad. And then, the vaccine, right? But then it's like, oh, the greatest vaccine ever for the thing that doesn't really exist or is not really that big of a problem. So, but hey, take it. If there's something wrong, I'll be the first to know. You'll be the first to know. Okay. But here's the thing. So Trump, as I mentioned, co-opted the movement. And that movement, pre-Trump, is something that I was quite familiar with for some time. It was filled with, of course, the same kind of anti-science, pro-conspiracy nutbags. Anti-government, anti-academia. These are like reactionaries, essentially. These are the people that look at smart, accomplished people who went to school, got educated, and think, bullshit, I know more than you. Bullshit, I know more than all of you. Yeah, I listened to Mr. Patriot 1776 America Freedom Eagle on YouTube, and he called bullshit on you. Yeah, he says you're fake news. Patriot Freedom Eagle, he did the real work. He's doing real journalism. Really? Was the guy in the lab? What was his credentials? Did he graduate high school? Did he move out of his parents' basement? I mean, what's the credentials here? What level are we dealing with? No, but this is understand what we contend with all the time. And of course, look, I know I did a little bit of a blanket statement there. Obviously, I know that there are some actual like nurses and things like that that turned out to be, cranks, quacks. And there are people, of course, that are, doctors that are wanting to make a quick buck off ignorant people by selling like these, so-called alternative medicines, right? Or, of course, some are just nuts. Does anybody remember Demon Semen Lady? Oh, you understand? You got the demon sperm. It's totally a thing. Demon sperm. Yep. Sperm from the demon. It's gotten so bad that there are people that have been convinced, and there are calls from poison control where there are people who have been convinced to take horse or livestock anti-parasitic medication. I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. a lot of poison control calls for people who are not horses, obviously, because they're people, not horses, or not sheep, whatever, taking these medications thinking, I'm going to take that and not the vaccine. What are you thinking? What are you doing? There's a free vaccine. It is available right now. And God forbid, the government actually gives out a medication that's free, like unprecedented, right? And they're actually doing the right thing. But no, let's take fish tank cleaner, or the bleach, or whatever else. No, let's take that instead of the vaccine that has been specifically created to protect you against this virus. Because, the stupid is unfathomable here. It is an abyss of dumb. And there are so many, and by the way, if you go and look into the conspiracy theories behind all of this stuff, obviously there's a lot of rabbit holes you're going to end up having to dive into. That'll take you to some pretty shady places. And somehow you're not going to be surprised where it all ends up with the Jews. They always go back to blaming the Jewish people. It's amazing. It always railroads into massive anti-Semitism on the right. Oh, did you know the vaccines are really a way to deliver the microchips into the people so that the big government, the one world government, can actually track you? Yeah. Oh, sure. Okay. Sent from iPhone. It's so dumb. And these people understand that they are so deeply gullible to fall for these obvious conspiracies, these cranks, and are so resistant to actual information, no matter who is telling them. And that's what's important, okay? Family, you got friends, Donald Trump. Donald Trump literally just told him, well, you've got freedom, but please take the vaccine, or just take the vaccine. It's good. It's great. And they're like, no, boo. Boo facts. Boo information. Boo reality. Not at all interested. I'm going to go get some horse dewormer. Come on. But it doesn't matter. Again, one of the stories that I did not get to cover on the show, I think it was last week, the week before, that there was a story of a Parkland parent that got sucked into QAnon. Okay, QAnon, right? And this guy is so deep that he started saying and believing that his son was in on the hoax. The son lived through that, saw what happened, lost friends. And his dad's like, bullshit. You're in on it. What is wrong with you? He even told the kid, quote, you're a real piece of work to be able to sit here and act like nothing ever happened if it wasn't a hoax. Shame on you for being part of it and putting your family through it too. What are you doing? What are you doing? This is conspiracy stuff. All right, this is a whole thing that undergirds a lot of these conservative beliefs. All right, and a lot of these conservatives, this is the argument that they make. And this is what they believe in. This is what they do. QAnon and the conspiracies around vaccines, they're all really a result of the same kind of pathology. And that pathology is killing people. It's killing people. Alabama, where this rally was being held, only has a vaccination rate of 36%. Well, of course, the lowest in the country, falling behind the national total by nearly 16%. Alabama, why can't you be normal? Why can't you just be normal and not put the rest of the country in danger by not getting vaccinated? It doesn't make any sense. The state itself reported about 28,000 new cases in the past week, and that among the hospitalized were kids, 50 children. 50 children. So again, kids are much less likely to get seriously ill and require hospitalization. Even so, now with the Delta variant, you have it spreading around, and you have kids that are about ready to get back to school, and you have Republican governors that are pushing back against mask mandates in these schools because kids under 12 can so far, unfortunately, not get vaccinated yet. And so you have this situation where, kids are starting to get sick and being hospitalized, and you have hospitals jam-packed with COVID-19 patients. It's a disaster. And you have the MAGA chuds out there, the hogs out there that are screaming, the boo vaccine, boo. It's a complete and utter disaster. And all of this, it could have been avoided by actually doing the right thing. Had Donald Trump taken this seriously back when he was president and not pushed the conspiracy theories, and had Republican congressmen not followed along like little bitches, little puppies, that are like, oh yes, oh no, Mr. Trump, yes, oh of course, let me lick your boots, and do whatever you want. Had they not done that, we might have actually gotten control of it. There had been an actual coherent federal response to COVID-19 under Trump. It might not be this bad. Complete and utter disaster. And it's not going away. All right. Move on. We got more highlights from the MAGA rally. Or lowlights, I should say. There's nothing high there. Low bar, very low bar. All right. And by the way, one more piece of news: the FDA has approved the COVID-19 vaccine, and immediately Fox News is like, oh well, that doesn't mean anything. It was still rushed. Oh, for Christ's sake! You've got to be kidding. No, they're not kidding. Fox News still riding that train of like, yeah, well, even though it's fully FDA approved now, it's still rushed, still not good. And at the same time, people are taking horse dewormer. This is a result. Trump claimed last week that COVID was gone when Biden took office. Yeah, I'm gonna have to call bullshit on that one, dog. All right. Over the weekend, let me start that again. Over the weekend, former President Donald Trump did a rally in Alabama. And during that rally, one of the speakers, Representative Mo Brooks, decided to bring up the 2020 election. And that made the hogs go absolutely wild in not a good way. Take a look.
2022. Beat them in 2024.
Now, you might be wondering, why are they so mad? Well, before that, Mo Brooks had said this about the 2020 election, quote, There are some people who are despondent about the voter fraud and election theft in 2020. Folks, put that behind you. Put that behind you. Yes, look forward, beat them in 2022, beat them in 2024. So apparently that crowd, as you could see, not exactly feeling it for Mo Brooks right there and what he was saying. Boo reality, boo, I hate facts, factual information, boo, stop telling me the truth. My feeble MAGA brain cannot handle it. This is the most, look, understand, these are the most sore losers I have ever seen. And look, I thought the I'm with her people were bad. Because they were. At not letting go, but wow, holy shit. Hillary stands never tried to overthrow an election. And they're still not talking about it. Like, here's the thing, right? It's been almost 9 months since January, since Biden actually took office. The butthurt from Trump supporters is in a league of its own. It really is. A very, very special group of people. The most special kind of people, the greatest people, the most tremendous people. Yet, of course, unfortunately for Mo Brooks, understands he's got to pander because he needs them to win an election. Brooks, as we all know, is running for an Alabama Senate seat in the upcoming 2022 election. But if voters don't show up because they're convinced that the system is rigged against them, well, that doesn't actually bode well for his chances. It turns out the now omnipresent specter of widespread voter fraud, fake voter fraud, by the way, is basically starting to be a drag on Republicans. Who could have seen that one coming? Where before, voter fraud, understand, was used to great effect, and still is, in order to pass laws that basically prevent black people from in the South from voting. I mean, that was the whole point of saying, oh, voter fraud, there's so much voter fraud. So now let's do something completely unrelated to voter fraud that's going to prevent black people from voting. Because that's always been their entire problem, is black people voting. And everything they've been trying to do using that cover of voter fraud is simply for that. Yeah, because black people and everyone else who's not an incredibly white, suburban, rich Republican votes for Democrats. Now, anyway, the hogs, and this is what's unfortunate for, Republicans here, are actually starting to believe in that rhetoric and then saying, well, what's the point? What's the point of voting if it's all already rigged and if it's a voter fraud? What are you going to do? What? And of course, that also leads to another unfortunate, even more unfortunate reality where some Trump supporters will be like, well, voting's not going to work. So now we have to do violence. And that's the other problem. Let's do, let's do violence now. So everybody get your guns, and here's what we're going to do. Because again, they already tried marching on the Capitol, in the Capitol building, and got inside the Capitol building. And so this is a problem. This is a problem. Now back to Mo Brooks. Mo Brooks understands that he had lost the crowd, and so he had to come back and basically say this.
Arizona recount is coming. The Arizona audit is on the way. Fix it now. Fix it now.
All right, so basically said, let's do it. The Arizona recount is coming. The Arizona audit is on the way. And then, of course, you heard the chants of fix it now. Fix it now. Yeah, it's funny because he mentions Arizona, right? The Arizona audit, which by all counts is an utter clown show. Honestly, the Arizona, it's coming, right? No, it's not. No, Arizona is a complete and utter shit show. It's not going to prove anything. Nothing at all. But here's the thing. You love the back pedal. You got to see it, right? Because the truth accidentally came out. He needs electoralism to win. He needs the votes to win. And so he's got to get the hogs out to vote. And so he's going to be like, well, just forget about 2020, forget about the voter fraud. I mean, it totally happened, but forget about it and go out and vote. And they're not having it. They're not interested at all. And so he's got to self-correct. Almost immediately following that rally, Brooks had a tweet clarifying that, of course, he believes the 2020 election was fraught with fraud and election theft on a massive scale. It's massive. Backpedal, backpedal, backpedal. That thing I said, oh, totally don't agree with that at all. Nope, agree with you 100%. Please vote for me. The pandering here is sickening, but understand this is a pattern from the right. This is how Republicans understand, are able to get people to believe in insane things because they don't push back on it. They pander so hard to the most insane voters because they think, well, those are the people that are going to show up. Those are the people that are going to show up the most, so I'm going to pander the hardest to them. And so when you have your elected officials and you have supposed reputable news outlets, supposed, right? Or gigantic cable outlets like Fox News, for example, pushing this garbage, this nonsense, people think, well, it's on TV, it must be legit. And again, by people, I mean mostly older Republican, or more conservative voters, low information voters, which is the target demographic for Fox News. So they got to pander. They got to pander to those people and never push back. Because if they do push back, we already saw what happened with Dan Crenshaw, right? They're going to get roasted or canceled, if you will, and in a lot of cases fade out into obscurity. And none of them understand that none of these people, aside from your Marjorie Taylor Greens and, of course, Donald Trump, whose ego is literally wrapped up in this entire thing, me losing, it can never happen. No, it never could happen. They actually believe in this. And, of course, the pillow guy. But I'm talking about more politicians that are in office that don't actually believe this. And they go along with it anyway. But again, Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of those true believers. Trump is a true believer because his ego won't let him to not be. To not be. But again, regular conservative politicians, they don't believe in this stuff. They have to. Some of them have to, in order to pander to their voters, to these voters, to keep them. And now the obvious question here for a lot of people is just why don't you appeal to other voters, to like different voters, and actually be honest with your constituents. And sure, if it loses you some crazies, that's totally fine, because you can actually pick up more people. And the country is more progressive than it is conservative. There are more progressive people, and there are actually, populist things that the right wing could actually do to get more voters. But unfortunately for them, they got to continue to pander hard and so they don't go after those better voters, because understand that, like, the Republican Party as it is, their time is numbered. The United States is becoming more diverse and more progressive. And again, why not try to appeal to them? Because this slice of voters, understand, the slice of voters that believes in these conspiracy theories that they're pandering to, well, they're not going to notice, if they're believing in these crazy conspiracies, they're not going to notice you picking their pocket. If they think you're out there battling Satan incarnate as a politician, then they don't care that you're going to vote against an infrastructure bill that your donors happen to oppose. But that infrastructure bill would actually help you and your community. And that's what's important. They think, well, Satan wants the Democratic infrastructure bill, so, we can't be in favor of that. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she had a part in crafting this bill that, would raise my wages, but she's Satan, she's the devil, she's a socialist, and so we can't support that. We can't get anywhere near that. Nothing we can do. And so this is why people keep voting Republican, while it's against their own personal and financial interests. You have the conspiracies, you have the wedge issues, you have reactionary team politics, which sadly, of course, Republicans aren't the only ones that are susceptible to that. Understand. And then, of course, conservative media that is disinformation for cash and clicks. And conspiracies do incredibly well online, on Facebook, on YouTube, despite the fact that they've been cracking down on that. So this is why for most of us, for most on that side, we're not going to get through to them. We're just not. But we can mobilize to outvote them. And of course, there are significant issues to get over, of course, voter suppression in a lot of places. That is a very significant issue. Voter apathy, too. Keep it real, right? Democrats actually absolutely have to do a better job at getting out the vote and getting people out to the polls and actually getting people excited to get out. Because you can't just rely on, well, that guy's crazy. Yeah, but after a while, that argument starts to not work anymore because look at what the last 4 years of Trump did. We're now kind of used to it. We're used to insanity. And so, that's why that's never really a good argument. What's a better argument is doing something that's positive, and that is going to actually help. But anyway, yes, we can mobilize to outvote people. We can, and the best way to do that, or I should say the best reason for that, is so that we can take away the political power of the crazies so that they don't affect our lives in a negative way. All right. All right. Let's move on here. MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell has a brand new date for us to watch for, which means it's time for another episode of Pillow Talk.
God gave me this platform. I already know I'm going to win. China did our vote. Biden and Harris would say, hey, we're here to protect the country, and resign. Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't.
Just forget about the evidence. This was attacked.
All right. So this week, while speaking with Real America's Voice host Steve Bannon, Mike Pillow argued that no, this time we actually have this for real. We got the smoking gun. Take a look.
Well, Dominion's in for it now. We're going to put an injunction against Dominion. It's a nationwide injunction prohibiting Dominion from making any modifications to their voting systems that would destroy prior election data. That's their case. That's what they're doing right now. They're going across the great country and deleting stuff. So we're going to get that injunction. That should come out this week, because.
Okay. Hey. It's a smoking gun. It's a smoking gun, everybody. We got him. We got Dominion. Yep, we're going to do the injunction. Really? You realize that this is why he's being sued for $1.3 billion, right? Putting out this nonsense about Dominion. And by the way, a judge just let that case proceed in court. Not only against you, but against Sidney Powell. And Rudy Giuliani, of course. I have a feeling that Dominion is going to be a very wealthy company soon. Hey, maybe they'll end up taking over pillow operations. Imagine MyPillow, a subsidiary of Dominion Voting Systems. I mean, I'm sure Dominion never planned to get into the pillow business, but hey, life comes at you fast, doesn't it? Unless, of course, by the end of the week, Mike Pillow is granted an injunction. Okay. So now the injunction that he's asking for is so that the Dominion doesn't delete the voter data from the 2020 election. All right, well, here's the thing. So now that injunction being granted, by the way, that wouldn't actually prove his case, wouldn't prove his theory at all. It would just be like, hey, don't delete the data. Some moron with a pillow company wants to come take a look at it. Okay. But here's the thing. Deleting election data, I would say approximately 9 months after a settled election, that would seem like a normal thing to do. Now, if it were a hotly contested, incredibly close election where there were some credible allegations of like ballot stuffing and things like that, and investigations currently going on, like all around the states, okay, I could see the point of getting an injunction and saying, okay, let's take a look at it, so don't delete the data. Now, in 2017, Georgia had something happen similar to that situation. Okay, a day after a very disputed election in Georgia, the now current governor of Georgia, and you see where this is going. Boy, the election data in this hotly contested election happened to get deleted somehow. Weird. That's very, very strange. Very strange. But generally, again, after a settled election, it's not at all strange to actually want to have that data deleted, because otherwise it's just kind of clogging up your server at this point, because it's over. And that's the thing that's interesting, right? See, all the electors, all the experts, the judges, Trump-appointed judges, Republican state officials, they've all confirmed that there's really nothing there to these conspiracy theories. So why should Dominion have to keep the records? Again, we already had numerous recounts that for the vast majority did perfectly match the paper ballot backups. Now, to be fair, there are states which don't have those backups. So that's a problem. But hey, if you can get an injunction, then sure. I guess go ahead and try to do what you want to do to try to prove yourself on election fraud. I don't think you're going to get anywhere with it, but okay. So now, again, here's the irony about this, right? So understand that following the 2016 election, there was a beef up on election security because there were vulnerabilities. I pointed out those before. For example, as I mentioned, there were states that had these that rely strictly on the machines without the paper ballot, right? Or paper, ballot backups. All right, so that's a problem. And there's a problem with those machines being vulnerable in person, or if you connect them on an unsecured internet, or some with incredibly old, vulnerable operating systems like running Windows XP, older machines, some that have even flipped votes. I remember seeing them flip votes from, Obama to Romney, to Republicans. And so those machines are prone to errors, prone to crashes, things like that. Okay. So now Arizona, is Arizona one of those states that uses that system? No, actually, they do have paper ballot backups. And so now Georgia, however, does use that kind of system, the machine only, and that should change. South Carolina, the same thing, and a few others, about 10 states in all. And that should change. And they should do paper ballots. They should have at least the paper backups, because there are actual serious vulnerabilities in our voting system. That said, what was the difference between 2020 and 2016? Can you think of one? Can you think of who? Maybe who won? Because I don't really remember a lot of Republicans, save for, of course, Donald Trump saying, oh, Hillary Clinton busted 3 million undocumented immigrants to come and vote for her. Ridiculous, right? But he still won. He still won, but he was complaining about the popular vote. Okay, anyway, about losing the popular vote. But generally, Republicans were more of like, oh, in your face, libs, we win, yeah. What voter fraud? I mean, there's a little bit, but we still won, yeah, America. But now there's a big difference. And now that Donald Trump had legitimately lost an election, Joe Biden, well, they can't handle it. They can't handle it. And look, there are significant issues with the machines. As I said, I'm a hand-counted paper ballot kind of guy. I think we should all go to those. They're better. They're more accountable. And, of course, it's going to take longer to count, but I'm all right with that, as long as it's real. But as I say that, remember, there's just no evidence of widespread voter fraud or a stolen presidential election. No evidence of a communist Chinese plot or the ghost of Hugo Chavez or the Italians or anybody rigging the vote for Joe Biden. There's just none. And the only reason the chuds believe it is because the guy lost. And by the way, there was an excellent article in NPR last year that talked about ways that we could actually help eliminate those existing vulnerabilities. One of them is to set up something called a standard audit. Now, you think of audit, you think of like Arizona, for example, where the audit is happening. Well, it turns out the audit in Arizona is a complete clown show. No, what we're actually talking about is the gold standard of post-election audits called a risk-limiting audit. So now, is Arizona using that? No. Are any states using that? No. No. In fact, even among the states that do some sort of audit, only a few are doing what is considered, as I said, the gold standard of post-election audits. Now, there was a bill put forward by Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon, who, put forward a mandate for such audits nationwide. Unfortunately, as the article points out, election reforms have gained little to no traction with the Republican-controlled Senate. Weird. Oh, it's almost as if they don't actually believe their own conspiracy theories. Weird. I mean, the people in Congress that can actually do something about it would rather talk about it, be like, oh, massive election fraud, well, massive voter fraud. But when something comes up that actually addresses vulnerabilities or actual vulnerabilities in our system that may or may not be present, they go, oh, no, not interested at all. Because the whole purpose isn't about securing elections. The whole purpose is to try to rig that system so that black people and Democrats are not able to vote. And that's it. Again, Democrats have been putting forward ways to make elections more secure, and yet Republicans always seem to block that. So the whole thing is Republicans being super butthurt. Their little feelings were hurt because they lost, and as usual, they come up with nonsense in order to waste people's time and money, of course. And that's Mike Pillow in a nutshell. So, all right, let's move on. Go to some positive news later. Drum roll, will Mikey Legs ever his case, or could it all be a sham? I mean, stop attacking me. I'm being attacked. They're coming after me. They're putting out the smears. Okay. All right. Sure. Very convenient. All right, so let's see. Go here to next story. Except for giving you great stories. I know, right? I love it. I love it. President Joe Biden has been getting a lot of pushback in corporate media and on Capitol Hill for going through with the previous administration's withdrawal from Afghanistan. So, look, he's been getting absolutely mauled by corporate press. Oh, it's Biden's Saigon moment. Oh, it's the worst disaster that we've ever seen. A foreign policy blunder. Something, Jimmy Carter. Terrible, terrible, terrible. But look, I agree that it could have been a lot better. But I don't think that there's anything really that any president could have actually done to make the withdrawal any smoother. But hey, look, right now Biden seems to be staying pretty firm and arguing that ultimately it's the right thing to do in the face of all of this pushback from his friends, in the his establishment friends, and of course the corporate media. And so I just want to show you him pushing back on that earlier from a speech where he once again has to defend his decision to pull out from Afghanistan. Take a look.
If we didn't leave Afghanistan now, when do we leave? Another 10 years? Another 5 years? Another year? I'm not about to send your son or your daughter to fight in Afghanistan. I don't see where that is in our overwhelming interest.
All right, so look, this was good. The policy of leaving Afghanistan is good, and he makes a good point. How long are we going to be there? 10 years? 1 year? 5 years? 100 years? 200 years? Again, and understand that like there are people in there that have actually made the call of like, yeah, we should stay there forever. We should stay there to the end of time. Why? Well, I mean, CNN already tipped their hand when there was an opinion piece that came out saying that they had like what $3 trillion or something worth of rare minerals that the rest of the world desperately needs. No, Afghanistan, rare minerals. Rare minerals. We got to have them. We got to have them. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you seem to be pretty open about that. About how you want to go back and basically do what Trump had said to do when it came to Syria and the oil. Remember when everybody in the media was up in arms about that? Oh, how dare they say, Donald Trump say we go in and take Iraq's oil and Syria's oil to pay for the war. Oh, terrible, terrible. Well, now you got MSNBC, you've got so-called liberals and so-called liberal media, which are really not, establishment media saying, well, we should have taken those rare materials that the rest of the world needs, to pay for our 20 years in Afghanistan. No, leaving Afghanistan was a good thing, and I'm actually going to defend Biden on this one because he's actually making the right choice. Okay, no matter what, we should not have been there in the first place, and it's good that we're getting out. And again, you can criticize the logistics of the pullout. That was indeed lacking, and that was, of course, a disaster. And of course, if you want to point out that we're not doing very well at getting our Afghan allies out, sure. But again, I don't really think any other president would have been able to handle it that much better. Certainly not Donald Trump. I don't think Bernie Sanders could have handled it that well, right? And even so, all three of those people are in the right when it comes to the policy decision of that we should not be in Afghanistan. But understand here, and this is the point that I want to get to. There's a lot of people that are crying crocodile tears right now for the average Afghani citizen, right? And they're doing so in order to score cheap political points, whether it be Republicans who actually supported Donald Trump's plan to pull out, which of course left about 2,500 troops in Afghanistan and left the Taliban in a much stronger position, who now seem to be shocked at the weakness of the Biden administration and our poor Afghan allies who better not try to come to America. Oh no, those people could be potential terrorists. We can't let those people in. No, they should stay over there. But our poor Afghan allies, right? That's a Republican. Now you have media figures who are also going around and trying to armchair quarterback a disastrous failed war, a war that they had cheerleaded us to get into in the first place. But the only thing that they're concerned about is, politics. Oh, politics. What's this going to mean for the horse race? Oh, what's it going to mean for Joe Biden? And here's the thing, right? Right now, this is terrible for Joe Biden when it comes to the polling, when it comes to the politics. I mean, the media is against him. The liberal establishment is against him. The neocons are obviously against him. The military-industrial complex. All the people that he thought were allies here are, well, he just found out that they're really not. They're against it because they're in favor of endless war. And despite all that, despite the barrage of negative press, which has hurt him politically, people still overall believe that he did the right thing. In fact, I've got some polls here, and it's disastrous, but also there's kind of a ray of light in it too. So now CBS News and NBC News recently came out with two polls. Now they roughly show about the same thing, that 63% of Americans support the withdrawal from Afghanistan. So now that's a good thing. That's where Biden's got them, the American people, the majority on his side, where they say, yes, we do not belong in Afghanistan. We should have been out of Afghanistan. But how it's going, well, again, here's where the negative comes into play. Only about 5% say the process is going very well. I don't know who those 5% are. I don't know. They're deluded. The process is going terribly. 21% of the respondents say that it's going somewhat well. 30% say somewhat badly, and 44%, a clear majority, say it's going very badly. In total, 60% of Americans disapprove of Biden's handling on Afghanistan, with only about 25% approving. And it's tanked Biden's approval rating. It went down from 58% down to 50%. So that's a gigantic crash. However, you look at the polls that matter. The 63% that support the policy because it's the right policy. And then you also have the 61%, and this is important too. The 61% of Americans who say the war was not worth it in the first place. Never even worth it. They also found out that many respondents do not specifically blame Biden 100%. In fact, they believe both Biden and Trump have responsibility, with the Taliban ultimately taking control. But over half of all respondents put a lot of blame on the Afghan government and the Afghan army. So understand that actually, I know when Biden says, well, it's Afghan army, what are you going to do, right? He's actually kind of right. See, here's the thing. This army that we funded and trained, that is incredibly well funded and well trained by American troops, because we sat there for years and years and trained up this and built up this big Afghan military, right? That was supposed to be, just amazing, right? Well, it wasn't the training that was the problem. No, they're incredibly well trained. It wasn't the equipment that was the problem. No, they got fantastic equipment, and guess who's got it now? The Taliban. No, the thing is, the Afghan military had absolutely no will to fight. None. No reason for them to fight. Why are we fighting the Taliban, they say? I don't care. I'm not going to fight for this puppet government. This is not my government that I supported. No, this was a paycheck. Don't care. And so understand that is why the Taliban took over so quickly. And of course it blindsided Joe Biden, because he actually thought that, wow, we put so much money into this. Why didn't it work? I thought if we just throw money and training at the problem, that it's going to work. And he even said, look, they've got to have the will to fight. And if they don't, well, then that's it. They didn't have the will to fight. And they didn't care about this. And so that actually supports Biden's position as the right one. Because if we wasted that much time ousting 20 years, ousting the Taliban out of power, training and building up this thing, for the Taliban just to come right back in as soon as we leave within days, then what we did not work. And Biden's position of leaving is the right one. And Trump's position was the right one of leaving. And so, and look, the pullout, understand, was never going to be pretty, never going to be a good, look, we were an occupying force. When an occupying force leaves, well, generally, this is how we leave. This is how you leave. And we should have never been there in the first place. And at least Biden seems to understand that. Because remember, he didn't understand this back in the day. Biden was one of the original congressmen, one of the 97 congressmen that voted in favor of the authorization of military force, giving George W. Bush, the ability to first conduct wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Both of them were monumental disasters and absolute horrific failures. And he voted for it. And this is on him. And this is on everybody who voted for it. Bernie Sanders voted for it. Only one that didn't. Congresswoman Barbara Lee. Remember that. Remember that. She was the only one who knew this, who got it right the first time. And then, well, everybody else came around. Everybody else came around. And look, Biden took him a long, long time, but at least he's there. And so this is on him, though. This is part of his responsibility, and is rightly, of course, being called out for that, and has actually taken responsibility for what happened. Now, I don't know, maybe this is after 4 years of, I'm not responsible for anything that happens that's bad, but I actually am going to give him a lot of credit and be like, well, you are taking responsibility for this. And he says, look, the buck stops with me, and said, I stand squarely behind this decision. After 20 years, I've learned the hard way that there was never a good time, there was never a good time to withdraw U.S. forces because this was going to happen. I don't think Donald Trump, look, I don't think Obama would have had the fortitude to take ownership of this, especially if it meant massive media pushback. Because we know from Obama was about pushing his legacy. That's all that it was. That's all he cared about. At least on this one, he's actually doing the right thing in actually standing up against the pro-war media and the neocons and the pro-war liberals. It's not easy to have everybody against you, because believe me, progressives, we know more than anyone. So, that everybody's going to be against you if you call for the right thing. And so in this one, I'll defend him and I'll give him credit. But understand that only on this am I going to give him credit. This doesn't mean that I'm going to let him slide on anything else, But again, on this, credit where credit is due. Even when this entire thing turned out really poorly, you still did the right thing. And that's what counts. All right. One more here. So just a real quick story here. Some good news. Pretty rare. Outerwear company Patagonia cut off a resort that hosted a fundraiser headlined by Marjorie Taylor Greene, former Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, and of course Jim Jordan. So now Patagonia confirmed last Tuesday that it would no longer sell to this resort in Jackson Hole, which happens to be its largest single customer in that area. So they sell like ski gear. This is a resort in Jackson Hole. And They're like, no, we're not going to sell to you anymore because you hosted this fundraiser with some truly awful people. In fact, the move came after Jay Kemmerer, one of the resort's owners, co-hosted a fundraiser on August 5th, at a Jackson Hole hotel for the House Freedom Caucus. Admission to the event cost a minimum of $2,000 per couple. Apparently, Patagonia not too keen on the idea of supporting the House Sedition Caucus. As noted, those three have parroted the former president's false claims of election fraud and have been panned by conservation groups for their abysmal environmental records. None of them, of course, believe doing anything about climate change, which happens to be something that Patagonia, or at least the owners, seem to care about. Now, Patagonia and the caucus also diverge on social priorities like voting rights, advocacy for minorities and disadvantaged people, according to their widely reported public positions. So this is interesting because we actually have a company here that's saying, oh no, I'm not comfortable with doing business with people who are trying to destroy the country and the environment. Kind of sucks. So yeah, we're not in favor of that. Okay. Now, Patagonia says their decision centered on our, quote, really strong commitment of using both of our business and our brand to advocate for our strong priorities. This is Corley Kenna, head of communications and policy at Patagonia, and added, quote, when there's a misalignment on that, well, then we take action. Now, the resort came back and said, well, no, we are very committed to environmental action. In fact, the resort itself is trying to separate itself from Kemmerer's politics. Members of the corporation board published an opinion piece in the local paper touting the company's own environmental priorities and its commitment to the community and guests and the welcoming of a diversity of views. I'm going to get to that because that is some corporate speak. Patagonians can acknowledge that they had a long and strong relationship with the workers and the management team at Jackson Hole Mountain Resort, if not Kemmerer himself. So now, a lot of companies put out like BS PR stuff. Oh, we care about the environment. We care about Black lives. We're against attempted sedition for our government. And then they funnel money to Republicans or Republican groups or PACs. And so we happen to know that they're full of crap. I mean, there's a lot of companies that were caught donating to the sedition caucus, to people that voted against the certification of the election in 2020. And so those companies we know are full of crap because they don't actually stand behind the things that they say. They put out this BS. But there are good companies out there. Ben & Jerry's, a good company. And apparently now Patagonia are actually trying to do some positive things. And that's incredibly rare, but good to see. Climate change is a gigantic problem. So are Republicans who don't agree, who don't believe in climate change. And look, if you enjoy skiing, you might not want to encourage more climate change and sea level rise or temperature rise, because you might not have anywhere to go skiing anymore. I'm just saying, I kind of ruin your business here. But again, when you cut off your biggest customer and say, we're doing this because you are hosting terrible people and that is against our mission, well, that's a good thing. And I hope this goes to, tell this resort, hey, next time you try to host terrible people and actually help terrible people raise a bunch of money, well, maybe you shouldn't do that in the future. And then we'll reinstate our business with you. All right. Okay. So that's all I've got for y'all today. Just a quick one. There. Let's go here to some super chats before we go. The one thing I always forget to do before the show, set up chats. All right, so Gabby Mathis, thank you for the very kind $5. And Madi Darno, thank you. Happy New Week, and chat together we better. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, hopefully we have a good week as well. We'll see. We'll see based on the news. Let's see. Got Twitch over here. Ollie Asher, thank you for cheering the 10 bits. Appreciate that. Thank you to all the new followers as well for the show. And hopefully you come back. We're here every day, 4 p.m. Eastern. So, you know, come check us out more often. Appreciate it. To everybody else. Oh, by the way, we're going to raid into another channel here. So we're going to raid into Lumiru. Haven't raided into Lumi for a while. They're incredibly based, used they, them pronouns. So non-binary, very, very based content creator. Please check them out. Give them a follow. Hopefully you raid with us so it all counts. Do that. And everybody else on YouTube and Facebook, thank you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, everybody. See you tomorrow.
Amazing. Why? You're getting nervous, man. Who's got a hammer?
There's insanity in the control room.
Mike Powers.
Big, massive dump.
How you like that, boy?
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.